All right, guys, let's move on to number 2. Let's go on to lesson number 2, measures of dispersion. Okay, so problem here, we're going to figure out what are these different measures for dispersion. What does dispersion mean when it comes to math and statistics? And how do I calculate these different measures? Again, a lot of it's going to be using this fancy handy-dandy calculator you've got right in front of you. I've got mine up on my other screen. I'll be jumping back and forth between it today. So make sure you have your graphing calculator. I'm using the TI-84 Plus CE to show you guys what's going on. So let's get to taking care of what these are. So first things first, we got to ask ourselves, what is dispersion? That's really our first question. Well, dispersion is just how far something is dispersed. If that's the base word is disperse, how far is it apart? And we're looking specifically from a certain point, how far is it spread from the mean? How wide is my data? Okay, so if we're looking at how big, so if I'm looking for my dispersion, how far apart is my lowest and my highest from each other? How far is it from the mean? Okay, I'm looking for a way to kind of say, okay, most of my data, where's the middle, where's the edges, where are my outliers? We're kind of talking about that kind of information and thinking about all the different pieces. Now, remember, an outlier is simply just data that doesn't seem to fit our data. If everybody got an 80 or higher on the quiz, and then I've got one kid who had a 42, that kind of stuff, that would show me an outlier. So when we talk about measure of dispersion, we have like three different ways to do it. One of them is mean absolute deviation. This finds the average distance each value is from the mean. So you find the mean of the data, and this is a lot of information, and we're not really going to talk about it. I wanted you to see the formula. We take the mean of the data, and I'll walk you through how to do each one of these. How far is each data point from the mean? And then we're going to find the absolute value, and that's why we got these absolute value symbols right here. Okay, so this gives us all the different points. That's the sum of, that's this mean. It just kind of talks about divided by how many there are. Okay, so our next one is standard deviation. And again, you know, the best part about our calculator is going to help us with standard deviation. It shows how far the data deviates from the mean. So slightly different. Not how far apart it is, how different it is average from the mean. What's the deviation from the mean? And you can see it's really, really similar to the same formula for mean absolute deviation. Again, we're not going to have to worry about calculating this one by hand. Thank goodness we're going to do this one with our calculator. And our last one is the variance. And it's really just the standard deviation squared for each term. Okay, so it's the easiest one to find. And our calculator finds the standard deviation, so we can just square that standard deviation as we go. Okay, so let's kind of take a look at these first things first. First thing we got to do is find the mean of our data. Now we can do it. We're going to go ahead and use our calculator for this. So we're going to jump over. I've got this data on a right next to me. I'm going to go. I still got all my data from last class. So I'm going to come up here where it's highlighted L1, and I'm going to clear my data. I want to point out something since there's multiple answers for the same one. We got the brackets. I hit clear, enter. It wipes the list. So I'm going to put this data in. -10, and I've got to use my negative sign. -10, 0, 10, 20, and 30. So first thing I got to do, I've got those 5 pieces in. Remember to go back to stat. We're going to go over and do one variable statistic. Okay, my mean on this one is just an even 10. So first thing I've got, get over here and get my pen out, is my mean. My mean is just 10. So I didn't have to do any math. I wasn't really doing anything. I just went ahead and checked it out. My mean value data point is 10. That's my middle number. All right, so for mean absolute deviation, I'm looking how far each data point is from the mean. So I'm going to say how far is -10 from 20. So, and I'm going to find the absolute value of that. I'm going to switch to colors, different color. How far is -20, -10, -10? Okay, that's 20 away. And we're going to use the absolute value of 20. How far is 0 -10? Well, that's -10 from the mean. Again, absolute value. 10 -10, that's 0. It's not far at all. And then we're going to go 20 -10. That's 10, same absolute value. And then 30 -10. So you can see our data is all pretty well spread out. We're going to take the absolute value of each of those numbers, 20 plus 10 plus 0 plus 10 plus 20. That's how far apart they are. So again, I'm going to use my handy dandy calculator. I kind of can add that up. It's going to be 12, it's going to be 60. And to find that, I'm going to take the absolute value of the sum of all the data points minus the mean, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and say, all right, divide that by how many data points there are. So my average distance from the mean, oh, I need a different color for this, is 12. I added all these up, I get 60, divide by 5, that's my mean, that's my mad, okay? Now, that's this one done, quick and easy. Now, I'm going to go back to that one variable stat page. I'm going to bring it up here. I went ahead and took a screenshot of it with my calculator earlier today. There's all my data that I got. Our standard deviation is going to be right here. Let me highlight it for us. This is our standard deviation. I said we'd talk about it. Yes. No, that's not it. I apologize. I grabbed the wrong one. Let me go back a little bit. Let me get my eraser out. Our standard deviation is right here. So we're only going to bother going to the nearest hundredth. So that's our third digit right here. So that's our second digit. So our standard deviation is 14.14. That's going to say, okay, how far, and that's not that far off from mad. That's how far it deviates from the mean, about 14 away. Okay, and that's going to give us, so the average distance from the mean is 14. Okay, from all the different points. So to find my variance, I'm just going to go to my calculator, 14.14. and square it. Gives me 199.94. And I'm always going to go to the hundredths place. There's no reason to go any further than that. At that point, we're talking minuscule amounts. All right, so that's data set A. Let's take a look at data set B. You can see our data is way closer together now. Instead of being from -10 all the way up to 30, we're from 8 to 12. Our data set is much more condensed. I wonder what that's going to mean to all of our points. Okay, so again, we'll go over to our calculator, handy dandy fancy smancy thing. We're going to go back to stat. We're going to come and clear this list. Hit clear, not delete, and type it in 8. Oh, my mistake. I think I must have missed a step. Let's see. Yep. Clear, enter. There we go. 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I've got all my data in. Quick, easy, simple data. Go back here and calculate all my information. Hey, look, my mean, again, is 10. Oh, man. That's great. I love that. So I've got a mean of 10. Now I'm going to find my mean absolute deviation again. So I'm coming over here and going, and I can do a lot of this in my head. 8 minus 10, and I'll even start doing 8 minus 10 is the absolute value of -2. 9 minus 10 is -1. Absolute value of 1, 0. And this one's going to be the absolute value of 1, absolute value of 2. Pretty quick and easy. So I've got a total of, absolute value of all of that together is 6, divided by 5. So this time my mean absolute deviation is 1.25. So it's much, much closer than 10 away from each other. And then we're going to bring up my, like I said, I've got that fancy, did I do it? Did I take a picture? No, I didn't, but I have it right here. There's my standard deviation, 1.41. So there's my standard deviation, 1.41. And that makes a lot of sense because, you know, it's pretty much the same data points. And we square that, I'm going to get 1.3. I get, this is what I really get. I get 1.2996. And I'm going to go ahead and round to the nearest whole number. So I'm going to come back here and go, oh, okay, it's really 1.3. If you don't want to mess with that, one of the things you can do on your calculator, I'll show you real fast, is you can go up into your settings, go to your mode. If you don't want to deal with that, you can change your float to 2. When you change your float to 2, it'll automatically only go to 2 decimal places. So if I come over here to my stat and I run my oh, hit the wrong button. My mistake. Let's go back to stat. Went too far. You'll notice everything runs to 2 decimal points, pre-rounded for you. You don't have to worry about any math. You didn't have to worry about finding anything. It gives you the perfectly rounded value. So if rounding is a thing you have trouble with, hey, you can go ahead and do that yourself. Okay? All right. Now that we've done data point A, B, and now it's time for C. Go ahead. I'm going to pause the video and give this one a try on your own. Find the different points. When you're ready to start the video again, you can see what you came up with. All right, let's go ahead and make sure we tab that in the calculator. Let's go back here, clear it. All right, and let's see, our data points are 1, 3, 12, 15, and 19. See, my calculator is still doing 2 data points on everything. Stat, arrow over to calc, 1 variable stat. So again, my mean is 10 again, just the same, since all of them add up to 50. Now let's find the difference with our mean absolute deviation. Let me switch colors. So 1 minus 10 is -9. 3 minus 10 is -7. 12 minus that is the absolute value of 2, 5, and 9. So if we add all those up, 9 and 9 make 18, 20, 32 is my total. Again, divided by 5. I get a mean absolute deviation, switch colors, of 6.4. And then we use our calculator to help us with standard deviation. It's 6 93/100ths, 6.93, and then we use our calculator and we square that term. We get 40.02. Oh, sorry, 48.02. Helps if I can read my own calculator. And those are our mean absolute deviation variation. The only one that's got any real calculation intensive stuff is the mean absolute deviation. The rest is using your calculator. All right, now I want you guys to work on the 1, 3, and 5 on the next page. Slightly more data, but again, it's using your calculator for most of it. And take a look at those. All right, if you pause the video, you can go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do 4 and 5. Those are the ones I want you guys to work on, is 4 and 5 and 3. That'll give you all 3 things to work out. And I'm going to go over the answers to 4 and 5 in just a few moments. Pause the video, try those 3, and see what you come up with. All right, now that you've done all that information, let's jump over to our handy dandy calculator one more time. It's really going to be your best friend. We're going to clear here. Clear this list again. Typed all our data at 120. 108. Oh, helps again. Remember, if I type it wrong, I can just come back. 120, 108, 145, 129, 102, 132. 132. Apparently, my 2 button is sticking on my computer. 134, 118. And 108. So I've got all my data points in. Make sure I've got them all like I did before. I have 9 data points. I have 9 in there because I'm on number 10 right there. Come over to stat, calculate my stat. All right, so I've got a lot of information. I've got my mean is 121.78. My standard deviation is 13.47. My variance then makes 181.44. And then now we're going to create our absolute deviation from here. Okay. Now this is where the calculator really is going to come in handy, because we are going to keep it rounded to the nearest point. So 1.78, 121.78 minus 108. You get 13.78, 145 minus 121.78. I'm going to get 23.22. Keep going, 129 minus 121.78. I get 722, 7/2200ths. 121.78 minus 102. You'll notice each time I'm simply moving it around so that I don't get decimals, or I don't get I'm getting how far from the mean. 132 minus 121.78. I get 10 and 2200ths. Okay. From here I keep going and I can go. So I'm at 132. I get 134. Minus, oh, not plus, minus 121.78. So I'm going to get 12 and 2200ths. 118 minus 1, oh, sorry, let's clear this. 121.78 minus 118, 378, and then 108 minus 121.78, and I get 13.78. So that one I already have two of them, so 13.78. Now I'm going to sit there and just type these in and find them out. 1.78 plus 13.78 plus 13.78 plus 23.22 plus 7.22 plus 19.78 plus 10.22 plus 12.22 plus 3.78. So I typed all my numbers in. I get a total of 105.78. Okay. So I've got all my data in, and I'm going to divide that by 9 this time because I have 9 different data points. And I get a mean absolute deviation of 11.753 repeating. 11.75 bar 3, but we don't need the bar 3. So that's our mean absolute deviation. All right, go ahead and take a look at these, and we'll see what we come up with. All right, so let's start typing these into our calculator one more time. Clear this again. Clear, not delete. If you do delete it, please let me know. I can help you. 2.29. You don't have to put, obviously, don't have to put dollar signs in these. 3.39. 299. 319. 279. 319. 279. Oh, we got lots of mode in this one. 309. That's going to make calculating our mean absolute deviation a lot easier, and I'll show you guys how that works in a moment. All right, so I've got that same 10 data points. This time I have 10. I got 10. Stat, calc, all done. 2.96 is my mean, so the average price of these cereal brands is $2.96. My standard deviation is only about 33 cents difference between the two, so 0.33. And we square that. That gives us 0.11 for our variance. Since it's smaller, when you square a number smaller, it's going to get much smaller. All right, now we do our mean absolute deviation, which is really nice in this case. I've got a couple of ones that are the same. 279 is in here twice. 319 is in here twice. Okay, so it lets me, I'll have to do some work, but I'll be able to do it a little differently when I talk about how we find our mean absolute deviation. So how far is 296 minus 229? All right, clear that. My mistake. I typed it wrong. 296 minus 229. That gives me a 67.67 here. 339 minus 296. Now, when I'm typing this into my calculator, I'm actually not doing a decimal point. I'm just adding the decimal point in the right spot as I go, just so that I can make it work. I can do this one in my head. Okay, 319 minus 296. Hey, that's 23 here. It's also 23 here, so it'll make it easier. I only have to do it once. 279 minus 296. I get 17 cents. Forgot my decimal points. 17 cents here, or the negative 17 cents, but we're going to keep it positive because we are going to take absolute value. 309 minus 296. 13 cents here. 259 minus 296. 37 cents here. And 329 minus 296. I get 33 cents here. So I'm going to take, again, I'm going to take time to add them all up. 67 cents plus 43 cents plus 3 cents plus 23 cents plus 23 cents plus 17 cents plus 17 cents plus 13 cents plus 37 cents plus 33 cents. All together said and told, I get $2.76 divided by 10. That's a quick one to do. It's 0.28. I love when it's divided by 10. I can just move my decimal point 1 to the left, and that gives me my answer. 0.28. So 28 cents for the mean absolute deviation. kind of gives us that the average distance from the mean is right there. So you've got homework tonight. If you have questions, please do your homework, reach out and ask me questions. Remember, this calculator is an amazing tool. Be sure you're using it to help you solve your problems.